Namaste and greetings. I, Dhruv Tapadia, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all at IMPRI #Web Policy Learning. Today we are gathered here for the intermediate day of Urban Planning and Local Governance Youth Fellowship, an online national autumn and winter school program, a 4-month online immersive introductory leadership certificate training fellowship program organized by IMPRI Center of Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies. The chair of the program is Professor Manjula Bharathy ji, Professor, Center of Urban Policy and Governance, School of Habitat Studies and Professor, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TIS, Mumbai, visiting faculty, IMPRI. The conveners of this course are Dr. Samiti Chaudhary ji, Mr. Tikendra Singh Panwar ji, Mr. Sameer Unhale ji, Mr. Arvind Unni ji, Dr. Simi Mehta ji, and Dr. Arjun Kumar ji. We've shared the course. We have also shared the course outline and reading resources document in our email for your kind perusal. We will be providing videos of each session for flexible learning at your place. But today, before we start today's session, I would like to announce the housekeeping rules. It is imperative that you join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session organized. Share your questions in Q&A box and not in the chat box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise and please refrain from making any general comments in the questions to save time. Without further ado, to begin today's session, I would like to hand over to the chair, Professor Manjula Bharathy ji, for her remarks about this extensive course.
Thank you, Dhruv. So today we will be discussing with your abstracts and then the proposals that you have submitted. So can we have call one-to-one interaction? So let me start,
So now I would like to open the floor to Q&A session. Participants can either raise their hands or type in their questions in the Q&A box with the videos.
Dhruv, I would like, first to take, like as per the abstract that has been sent to me by Priyanka.
Okay.
So first one is Deepak Shah.
Okay.
So that is the Deepak Shah is here?
Yes, ma'am. He's here.
Yes, ma'am.
Conventional urban planning versus public participative planning, cause of internal displacement due to centralized development. Is he here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So your abstract started, like that, basically trying to look at, how this whole question of non-participative planning is leading to multiple forms of marginalization. That is centralized development planning, how it is leading to multiple forms of marginalization, especially you're trying to look the city of Pune for that, right? Deepak, is that right? Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, would like to hear from you what is the methodology and the methods that you will be using, because your abstract speaks about the ways in which non-participative planning will lead to multiple forms of inequities and marginalization. And you would like to see the city of Pune to understand that. Would like to know about what is your theoretical framework, what is your conceptual mapping, and what is the methodology and the methods that you'll be using.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
You are.
Yeah. So, ma'am, basically what I am trying to quote here on the basis of the current methodology of human settlement, which is happening in Pune city. So as it is actually expanding in period of time, and as I have shifted since last 2 years here, and I've done some kind of a background research on the basis of research papers and through the visual which I have seen. So, ma'am, there is something which is happening. I feel like the growth of city, which is happening in multi-directional way. And yes, on the basis of that, the shift of population in search of this opportunities are actually happening in a large scale, and due to that, the marginalization to the people who are actually here is actually they are actually facing challenges in that way. And if we talk about the unplanned growth of the city, yet there is the development plan is there, yet they are working on that way. But the huge blast of that population, due to which the infrastructural, the gap which has to be there is actually lacking. So what I'm trying to do is I'll be for this specific the essay I'll be writing. So I'm trying to work on a specific site where I'll be going for a site study, and then I'll be trying to talk to the people on the specific, I can say the stakeholders who are there, and then I'll try to communicate that way. So that is how I'll be developing the essay in that
Okay,
context.
okay. So are you going, like, see, when we are trying to understand paper, research paper, first we would
Yes, ma'am.
like to know, we are using, because since it is a qualitative research, like you will be mostly using a qualitative research method, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So in that
Yes, ma'am.
qualitative research method, what is the method that you're using? Like since you're saying you're going for a site, you can use a case study approach, and also you can use a focus group discussion, and you can also use the questionnaire survey. So what is the methods of data collection that you'll be using there?
Yeah, ma'am. So I'll be trying to do two things. That one is interview, and another will be the survey, that the online survey that I'll be taking as a like tool.
So you are using an online survey and an interview. Interview is also
Yes, ma'am.
going to be online.
No, ma'am, that will be offline.
So you will be going there to the site and doing the interview, right?
Yes, ma'am. Right.
So you can also, in that case, since you're going there, you can also do a case study of that event, right?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
The site, So I will
Yes.
also, by the end of this class, I will also let you know about, how to do a case study. Okay. What type
Yes,
of
ma'am.
case study? How can you approach a case study? And what is the methodology to be used when you're doing a case study? Because while I was surfing through the abstract of most of the people, I felt that one of the useful method that you can acquire with is the understanding of case study, a qualitative
Yes,
case
ma'am.
study, which I can tell you about the multiple forms of case studies that we can use. And you can use the appropriate case study that can be used for this. And also, I have, I have seen, one second. I have also, I will send to Priyanka. I have made, like a couple of articles, and then which is the article, theoretical framework. When you're looking at the whole question about, the imperativeness of a participative planning and the casualties of decentralized planning, what are
Yes,
the
ma'am.
and especially when it is leading to multiple forms of vulnerabilities and marginalization, there are Deepak, there should be, like certain, because see, when you are looking for a centralized planning, it looks at the marginalization in multiple forms, like you are an
Yes, ma'am.
architecture, it can lead to the marginalization with respect to the design of the city itself, right?
Yes, ma'am.
City design could be marginalized, and it is not meant for gender friendly, or it may not be like differently able friendly. You can look at multiple ways in which it is not catering to the interest of the marginalized community, so that is designed in that way. Infrastructure, like where are the infrastructure position, and whether the infrastructure
Yes,
is
ma'am.
catering to the interest of the powerful people of the city, or the, like how it is not accessing to the marginalized and catering to and leading to further marginalization. That is one. And the third one, you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
look at the social marginalization. The people who are on the peripheries are again being excluded and marginalized. And then again, there is a social marginalization with respect to the class, with respect to the caste, with respect to gender, with respect to ethnic identity. The city is becoming gentrified, and with respect to the, age, age people, So there's a question
Yes,
of
ma'am.
gentrification and marginalization happening. And then you can
Yes,
look at
ma'am.
the economic marginalization. So, what is it that you are trying to understand? Like, so you cannot have all the forms of marginalization,
Okay.
So, in the social
Yes, ma'am.
marginalization, also, you have to focus, like, and then there is a gender marginalization. Women are not getting that, So, there are multiple theoretical framework. For example, Lefebvre. Lefebvre is a very
Yes, ma'am.
interesting author that you can use, and I will give this references to you, who speaks about right
Yes,
to
ma'am.
city. How
Yes, ma'am.
important is the right to the city, and how the city
Yes,
is
ma'am.
producing a space, and how that denial of the right to the city is creating multiple forms of marginalizations. So that is a
Yes, ma'am.
theoretical framework. So you also need to have, when you're writing, you have to say that, okay, now this is an empirical thing. But since you are a very senior person engaging in it, you also say that, okay, now my article will be informed by this theoretical framework.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So when
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
writing, you should come out with, all the things, what is my research article trying to speak about? What are the key variables coming from my research article? So the
Yes,
key
ma'am.
variable of the title, what is the key variable that you're saying about? Your key variable is on participatory planning, disposition, and then inequity. So what kind of,
Yes, ma'am.
you need to understand that what could be the theory that I can use to understand these concepts that is coming from the title.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you are saying that, okay, my article will be theoretically informed
Okay, ma'am.
by this, and I will be using such a methodological framework to analyze the article.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there should be
Yes, ma'am.
a review of literature. So basically, review of literature will tell you, so there will be a multiple review of literature, and from the review of literature, you says that, okay, I will be using, what is review of literature? Review of literature tells you that, okay, now such a body of knowledge or body of literature is existing on this. If you go, lot of people have done studies on, the imperatives of the participative planning, and then the problematic features of a centralized planning for a city. And then,
Yes, ma'am.
and the people will be looking from multiple perspectives. Like they can look it from infrastructure, they can look it from, economic, they can look it from a social perspective, and they can look at from the right to the city perspective, So you
Yes,
say that,
ma'am.
okay, now these are the important literature that is existing in this particular thematic sector. And here I feel so gap is there, and I would like to address to that gap, and my article or my study will be trying to address that gap from such a theoretical perspective. And then you say that
Yes,
for
ma'am.
that I will be using a methodology, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
here, one of the things that I can theoretical perspective I can use, you can use is an Einstein ladder of citizen participation.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will be sending that article to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, and I will basically, I can send it to Priyanka, and Priyanka can send that to you. Or I can even put
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
in our group,
Yes, ma'am.
uh,
Yes, ma'am.
which speaks
That will be
about,
helpful.
community participation for underdeveloped countries, which is an interesting article by, Gugoldo and Chogli. And then there is a UN Habitat one, which speaks about SDG indicator 11.3 and how it is important to have civic participation in urban planning and management. That is again a
Yes, ma'am.
very interesting article. So this I have put
Yes, ma'am.
something about 5 articles, and you can see and you can get the theoretical perspectives. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank
So
you so
can
much,
we
ma'am.
go for the next person?
Yes, ma'am.
That
Hello,
is,
ma'am.
let me.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Yeah.
Shanmita ji has just joined this fellowship recently. So due to time constraints on her end, can we let her introduce and share her abstract right now?
Because I have not read her, but she can speak. Because I just now received and I've only read, 12 abstracts that is given to me, but definitely she can, and I'll give because I have not read her. And all other persons, like I have even come out with the interesting article which they can read. But they
Okay,
can
ma'am.
she can definitely,
Yeah.
introduce that, and then,
So, Shanmita ji, please unmute yourself, ma'am.
So, good morning, good afternoon to all the fellows here and our esteemed professor.
please go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are audible. Please go ahead. And I
Yeah.
have not read your proposal.
Yeah, sure. So, my study is on the long-term effects of using electric cars because that's becoming a trend in Bangalore, and keeping from the perspective of global health, economy, and environmental health. I have come to a hypothesis that that electric cars is not our future because the manufacturing of lithium batteries itself contributes to climate change. And at the end, like when you dispose the battery after the car life and any electric vehicle, it will again cause damage to the environmental health, climate change. It will contribute to climate change. And keeping in mind the Paris Agreement and what the UN has stated, if we have to reduce emissions by 2030 and achieve net zero by 2050, this is not a feasible solution to use electric vehicles across India. So this is my research, and I found that transport is one of the aspects under the theme of urban planning and local governance. So I thought I'll research on this topic.
Okay, Shanmita, right?
Yes, yes.
Shanmita, when you are trying to understand, you are trying to look at this question of a sustainable mobility.
Yes.
And, so when you're trying to understand sustainable mobility with respect to the environmental sustainability and also the climate sustainability, that is the important issue, especially to look at that, issues and how a sustainable mobility, and then the question of electric cars is questioning, in addition, in contrary to the popular understanding, you are trying to deconstruct this popular understanding and how. So then basically you have to do for, like two things. One is what is sustainable mobility and why is it important in the context of in the context of Paris Agreement and also in the context of the COP26 that is happening, which speaks about the climate sustainability, especially for a developing country like India. And then in that context, basically you have to come out with literature that speaks against using this and how it is environmentally degrading to a developing country like India, using which actually in somewhere, some parlors, people are actually asking to use the electric cars, and how in your analysis it is actually, so somewhere a quantitative kind of indicator that speaks about how it is detrimental to the environmental sustainability and then environmental governance, and then how, why you are asking about it. So one is that you are trying to deconstruct the popular myth. That is one, but what is your research problem? So you are deconstructing a popular myth. That is the context in which you will be positioning your research paper. But what is your research topic? You are deconstructing, fine. You are deconstructing a popular myth, but then after that what? I'm not able to understand that.
Okay, I want to propose recommendations about disposal of lithium batteries. Like if electric cars is going to be the only solution. Ma'am, 1 second, I'm just stuck. Let me just think. I'm so sorry. So I will be proposing recommendations to achieve net zero and reduce carbon emissions. And I will specifically be focusing on Bengaluru, because in India, Bengaluru is has the highest rate of running electric vehicles. So are you able to get it down, ma'am?
My question is the recommendations. Are you going to come out with the recommendations with your secondary research, that's a desktop research, or are you going to do a primary data analysis?
Primary data.
So primary data is important, na?
Yes.
Then when you're doing a primary data, then you should have a methodology for that and a data collection tools for that, right?
Yes.
So that is exactly what I was asking when you're doing a primary data, because you will be using a secondary data to demystify this popular concept about the electronic vehicles, and then you will be using a primary research analysis to corroborate the thing, and then you will be coming out with a methodology, coming out with the recommendations, right? So that is something what should be the theoretical framework, and what should be the methodological framework, and what is the analytical framework is something that you need to write. And I have not gone through your paper. I don't know. So there should be a theoretical framework, and there should be a methodological framework, and how you're going to analyze is using these two, and then come the recommendations, right? Whatever the field speaks to you, you cannot have an understanding what this field speaks to you, right?
Right. So, ma'am, I will be using, so this methodology is going to be an amalgamation of both qualitative and quantitative. And the stakeholders will be chemistry professors and automobile industries. I want to go go to the industries in Bangalore, and I want to contact also the Ministry of Heavy Industries if I can get any government employees over there. I want to interview them about, and then some environmental activists also, like to inquire about sustainability. And I want to collect my primary data through interviews and questionnaires.
Fine. So that is fine. So you need
Yeah.
to have a theoretical framework, right? So now you have a little understanding about, the
Yes.
methodological framework, a qualitative framework. In that, so you are primarily using a
Yes.
qualitative one, but then that will be basically supported by the quantitative framework that is you're getting from your secondary data analysis. And once
Yes.
that is done, then you need to have a theoretical framework to position your argument, right? Some theoretical framework needs, like what are the existing literature, because I'm not an expert in the area that you're saying, but very importantly, in the urban governance, it is very important to have a sustainable transport, so the sustainable mobility is very important. And the sustainable mobility, can also look at with the sustainable geography. How can you speak about a sustainable geography which speaks about a sustainable mobility, and which in turn you can connect it. So then the theoretical framework can come from that, which speaks about all these multiple things that you have discussed now. And so whose theoretical framework and which theoretical framework which you will be using to position your argument is important.
Right. So, ma'am, in my college, I did
I'm losing you. I'm losing you. I'm not able to hear you.
As a topic for my
No,
dissertation.
I didn't
And
hear you. I
yeah,
lost you, Sharmita.
can you hear
I
me
could not
now?
hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, can you? Yeah, I just started speaking. So, in my college, I did my dissertation on climate change, and my theory was emancipatory realism. So basically fixing the root causes in a capitalistic world. So can I bring that theoretical framework in this paper?
See, when you're bringing that emancipatory realistic framework, right?
Yeah.
Where you are bringing the capitalistic framework, there are a lot of capitalistic framework we're looking. For example, when Harvey is looking from a neoliberal capitalistic framework, and then when Harvey is looking from a neoliberal capitalistic framework, looking at the climate change, then looking at the power asymmetries that is there, and how it is bringing a new global world order, because it is bringing upon the economic asymmetries, right? So, and then
Okay.
I strongly suggest you to read a new, highly read article that of Chassel. I can give you that article. And then, like looking at that, how the power asymmetries are coming from the developing nations, because of the climate change, and basically looking from the capitalistic framework and trying to see that how the economic asymmetries are coming because of the climate change things, and how the Paris Agreement is actually giving more burdening to the people who are actually being already burdened, and then bringing the power asymmetries. So that could be a very interesting article, where you can pitch in, different very specific people who speaks from a neoliberal framework, and looking at the global asymmetry of powers.
Okay, ma'am. So can I use neoliberalism as my theoretical framework?
I can send you Chancellor's book and the Chancellor's article and some other articles, and you read it and try to see that how, because again, neoliberalism is a meta narrative. So which ways of, like neoliberal framework can be used for capital, can be used for labor, can be used for environment. That is a meta theoretical framework, right? And that theoretical framework, because what is neoliberalism says that in nutshell says that a state that governs the least is the best state. So state need to withdraw from its welfaristic policies, and that is bringing the kind of market ruling. So market ruling the economic relations, market ruling the social relations, market ruling the cultural relations, market ruling the environmental relations. So where, in which place that you would like to neoliberal framework is important. So that you need to pitch in and say, okay, but I'll send you the articles.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Otherwise, if it's fine, right? The topic is fine.
It is good.
Okay.
Ma'am, can we move on to next one?
Yeah, that is next person I have read is Lalit.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
That is scaling Nordic net zero technologies in Indian cities, a local governance framework. Yeah,
Yes,
Lalit.
yes, ma'am. So basically, I'm based out of Mumbai, and while traveling to work, I often see a pile of garbage lined up at the dumping
Lilith,
ground.
I'm actually looking exactly from your abstract, I
Okay, ma'am.
think your
So my
abstract,
idea is
you have
basically
given it.
to involve
So,
involve the local governance frameworks for participatory planning to accommodate sanitation measures in the cities. So, like
yeah.
in the Nordic nations, having less population, they have scaled these technologies to accommodate
So you
carbon.
are looking at the net zero building technologies, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Huh? So that
yes,
is what you're trying to look at with the understanding of a participative framework, right?
yes, ma'am.
For a
Yes,
sustainable urban development. Okay.
precisely, ma'am. Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, here what I have, let me know like that I wrote down my comments in a different paper.
Okay, ma'am.
Let me take that. One thing I just want to ask Lilith, like that, is there any because you said that you will be using, a primary data analysis, and is there any places? Wait, take it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, is there any places that you would like to have your dissertation? Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, come. Yeah, is there any specific places that you would like to do your research? Any
Ma'am,
particular location?
there is a particular project based out of Jhansi wherein they have which is renowned like for the fastest construction, and it's a completely net zero library which they have made. So they have scaled they have implemented multiple technologies, but if that was to be done at scale, I wanted to understand how it could be that done at scale. So that could be a form of my primary data.
Very good. So then, like that, see, that will be very good, like Lalit, because
Um,
in our university, so many students were trying to understand this green building technologies, and then we found because they could not come out with a practical spaces where they were implemented, and then most of the things remain on the paper, and then the moment we trying to understand a policy practice connect, we could not get. There is something which is so much there in the paper, but then that is not manifested in a practices, so that policy practice rupture was not able to understand clearly because there is no places where that was been implemented. But right now you're saying there is a place that has been implemented that will be one of the very nascent, work that is done in this area. So your work could be very interesting, throw lights in your interesting pioneering work done on that. So I feel that, okay, you also need to look at that. There is an important policy for an environmental sustainability, environmental governance that is coming out with the net zero building thing, and how that when it is being put into practice, how much there is a rupture between a policy and a practice, and
yes,
why the rupture, and how is the
yes,
rupture, who is getting benefited and who is getting affected by that. If you
yes,
can
ma'am.
bring a very interesting thing, that could be a very interesting piece where you can really use a case study approach, take that site as a case study, and bringing multiple stakeholder perspectives through questionnaire interview, focus group discussions, or detailed in-depth interviews, and bring
Ma'am,
that as a case study.
ma'am, in this case, there was good amount of support from the local governance. This thing. My question was that Jhansi being a tier 3 city, I believe it's not as matured, or you can say as developed as the other urban centers in our nation. So I was trying to understand that if it can be done in a small scale city, why cannot we scale these technologies to major urban centers?
No, no, Lalit, like now, even the Prime Minister in the address to the urban development saying that India's focus now should be on the small towns, small
Yes,
cities, and that
yes,
is where the future of India is. So
yes, ma'am.
now the urban development is actually looking into the tier 3 cities or the cities on the peripheries. We call it the small towns, the peripheral cities. So any research that is coming on them coming from that spaces is being now looked with great expectations, because that is the places now going to come for a lot of transformations in the future. So from that perspective, this will be a very interesting thing, study, and how the local governance in the small towns are trying to understand, because there is a connect between an urban and rural area, because you cannot call them as a purely urban one, and you cannot call that as a purely rural one. And so this rural, we can call a amalgamation of a rural and urban in that space, which is called a rural, and how a rural governance is interesting and important to look at a small town space, So then please, that will be very interesting, but do a very, very in-depth case study analysis, and I will maybe in the next class definitely will tell you how to do a case study, and what could be the methodological approach to do a case study with a subject-object analysis, and what could be the different ways of case studies in that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
And I will also, send you the articles which you could refer. One is, Asdrap Baggio, which speaks about, dynamic life cycle assessment, modeling of NISAT EB building, So that is exactly on your area of, area of analysis, and also trying to look, Bajaj, you're trying to look at, how the various key stakeholders in development in Indian cities, and Chaturvedi also trying to look at net zero for India's energy sector, and implications of a net zero target for Indian sectoral energy. So I can send you this article which speaks about actually this concepts.
Yes, ma'am.
Net zero electronic building, the net zero building
Energy
concepts.
NZEBs, ma'am. Net zero energy buildings. That's what they are.
Yeah, so net zero energy building concepts, NZEB, So then Georges is also coming with that, So I can send you this article, which very speaks about these concepts and how that is used in understanding it through a research article. Yeah, I can send you that article. I can send you some 5 articles on this.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I'll definitely go through the articles and use a case study.
Yeah. I will send you Priyanka today itself, and then
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Because you need to come out with certain theoretical, like I said, certain theoretical formulations, and it is important.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Now the next one that is being given by Priyanka.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go to the next one, please.
That is Janani. Yeah. Janani, yeah. There is role of public participation in governance in designing spaces under flyovers, a study of commoning and public space, right? Yes, ma'am. So, Rajini, I have read your abstract, and it's coming out, like quite well, especially when you're trying to look at, inclusive and reflective flyovers, and how that is important to understand that with respect to the local needs, and how can you bring in the idea of commoning and shared ownership, which has the principles of inclusion and belonging, right? So this is a very interesting one. But like I said, the key words that is coming, Janani, from your research article are public participation, and then commoning and public space. So the importance of governance and public participation in the context of commoning and public space is something. So you need, like Janani, need to link these 4 keywords. That is, one is public participation and governance, and then commoning and public space, These 3 are the keywords in your research article. So these keywords, you need to see that which are the theoretical concepts, that theoretical understanding that you can use, where you can have these 3 concepts to link together, and that will give you the broader epistemological perspectives to look at your, so when we are having a research paper, it also needs to have an epistemology, the theoretical framework, and through the theoretical lens. Suppose I am using a Marxian theory, I'm using a modernist theory, I'm using a post-colonial theory, I'm using a gender theory, I'm using a queer theory. So every time my point of reference will be different because my theoretical framework, that is the epistemological framework, is different. So here you need to look at that. Okay, now there is a very interesting thing that is coming up. Are you looking it from a Marxian framework? Are you looking it from a neoliberal framework? Are you looking from a post-colonial framework? In each of those things, commenting and then, a public space differ, and are you looking from a gendered framework? The moment you're looking from a gendered framework, public space commenting is quite different from the framework that you're looking from a post-colonial framework, so you have to basically which is the theoretical framework you are interested to understand it, and it comes out to be a very interesting one, Janani. And like what I have done is very interesting article where like so many interesting article that is coming out, which speaks about the commons, but then Parthasarathy's article, he's from IIT Mumbai, he's a professor in IIT Mumbai, and the article that speaks about Amchi Mumbai, capital, commons and the city. I will be sending you this, I will send to Priyanka, and that is, like that is there. It's a very interesting article. It's about, how you are trying to link capital, commons and the city. There is a capital coming up. There is a question of commoning and there is a question of city. How can you link these three together, and then you can think about the governance perspective. So there, once you have that, then you can think about under the flyovers and how can you bring this question of ownership, so that will be, and then there is another, like very importantly, there is Albert Thompson. Again, it's a very interesting article. I've gone through the article that speaks about citizenship community and then the struggles for public space. So I can send you all this article. I can, there's no need. I will send to Priyanka and then you can read this article. So, and then Brave New Neighborhoods, the privatization of public spaces. And what is happening to the, and then, like see, rethinking open spaces. So I have come across many articles and I'll send it. So that will give you. And then generally what here, once you have a theoretical framework, then you have to come out with a site because you are going for a primary data collection. So a specific flyover which you think could be converted or could be right now using or could have the possibility of a conversion, which you think could be made that into a common space, and how, why, and if it is not doing, why, and then that questions need to come in. So identifying a space for your research is very important. And then the moment, because, like, see, when you're having a article, research you're going to do, Janani, it is important to see how your text speaking to the context. Because your research is your text, but context is the socio-cultural spaces from which, suppose the flyover you're doing in Chennai, and suppose the flyover that you are doing in Delhi, the way in which this context are speaking to the text is quite different because the socio-economic political context of these two spaces are quite different. And that speaks about the ways in which the space is being formed historically and contemporary. So you need, like that, you need to zero in on a site. Now it is very, very important. Now all of you, I think that you have to say, this is my site and this is where, and that will tell you about how can you link, because your thing is about commoning and the public space. Commoning is coming from that commons, and commons coming from the day-to-day life of the people, common people. And that comes from the socio-cultural, political, economic context of the people, from where the commoning comes, and that needs to be addressed very importantly. So you have to zero in on, and then only the research area, then only you can come out with this theoretical framework. Is it clear?
Okay,
yes. Thank you.
वो तो मैं अभी भी जाऊंगा.
Thank you, Janani ji. Ma'am, can we move on to next one?
Next one. Bharathi.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
I can
yes,
hear you,
Janani.
Bharathi.
Yes, sir.
So here, Parvati, right from the beginning, I'm telling you that this is a very interesting one because you have already identified your case. So you are trying to understand, Interact Bio, a pilot project, and then Center for Heritage and Environmental Development, Kochi, So this one thing, hello, Parvati, are you there? Parvati, am I audible to you?
Yeah, I can hear you, ma'am.
Am I audible to you, Parvati?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So in your case, you have already come out with a very specific case where you would like to do the research upon, right? And that is the
Yes, yes.
Interact Bio. And then the Center of Heritage and Environmental Development, Kochi. So this question right now, like that there are a lot of interesting things that is happening with the environmental development. So you, in the context of Kerala, you have to problematize what is that, like that, how this environmental things and the one of the important problem the Kerala right now facing is this whole question of, waste management.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where is the positionality of this particular project with respect to the waste management? So there is a lot of articles which speaks about, the various ways in which Kerala tried to address the issue of a solid waste management or a waste management. And then what are the kind of developmental issues in a place like Kerala? And then what is the positionality? So you historically positioning through the secondary data, what are the issues related to the waste management? And what is the important role of the local governance in addressing this waste management? And what is the state is doing as a meta space to address this issue? So there are a lot of articles. And then how you are basing it, this which is operational only for the 8 months. So there is a policy document and vision document of this project. And how the
Yeah.
vision document is trying to look at the present solid waste management issues, solid waste issues or management issues of the state or Kochi
Yeah.
specifically. And
Yeah.
how the vision document is trying to address these issues. And how
Yeah.
at least 8 months of, practices is addressing and where are the ruptures and what are the challenges and why
Yeah.
the challenges coming, So if
Yeah.
you can, like pinpoint to this very specifically, and then you can say about, the
The
problems
circularity
and
that
then the
this
scaling
project.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you can use multiple stakeholders like the people who have the pilot, the project, people who have conceived the project policy, the people who are implementing it, local governance, and then the common people who are actually getting benefited from this, So if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can have this multiple stakeholders to understand the ways in which the vision document of this project speaks to the way in which it has been implemented and its challenges in the trajectory of the policy, then that will be good. And there are a lot of article, I'm sure. Bharathi, do you want any article? Because, like just look
So,
at
ma'am,
that.
I have collected up some where that
Ah,
compares the situation of Kochi with Indore, who comes up as the first in Swachh Bharat Survekshan for the last 4 times, and some
ah.
other documents also where people have spoken about how's the condition of solid waste management in Kochi.
So what you can do is that, Parvati, whatever the article that you have had, can you
Uh,
please share that articles with me? And then
yes,
I'll
yes.
see, and if it is there more, like that, because I have a lot of article in that, so I can see that is
Okay.
thing, and then we can discuss about it. But you also need to be theoretically informed,
Uh-huh.
Are you looking, like that, this thing, which is a social segment that you're looking? Are you looking at, which group of people are you basically looking in Kochi? So all those things becomes important, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because that is not coming here clearly.
Ma'am, I'm looking at the specific ward, so it's not a particular section, or I'm not segregating that it is a
But you
particular
are looking at a ward.
financial.
So how many,
Yeah,
just
I'm
a one
looking at a
ward?
ward. Yeah, so it's just one ward where it is implemented. So
That
in
is
that
fine.
particular
And you're
ward,
saying a photographic essay.
yeah,
Yeah. So basically, photographic essay, you means that, okay, your research paper will be complemented with the photos to show that the photos will be using as a data to express the, to supplement or complement what your argument is, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, fine. So, fine. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But even when
सच में तुम मेरे को अभी के फोटोज
Parvati,
आई haven't even posted. तुम लोग क्या भीख मांगते रहो फिर तुम लोग आना हो
Parvati, one more thing, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Lalit ji, please unmute yourself.
When you're doing that, no, because
Yes.
you know, like you are selecting a word. So then is that a purposive sampling? Because you're doing a research, right? And
Yes,
you are
ma'am. It
selecting
is
a word.
yes,
So
yes,
you are, because it cannot be a random sampling. So it needs to be a purposive sampling, because
yeah, yeah.
and then you need to highlight that why I'm choosing that, because I'm going for a purposive sampling. And then the what specificities, that is you need to highlight in your methodology part, saying that I'm choosing this what because it's because of this reason A, B, C, D. And so I am going for a purposive sampling to select this.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Now the next, thank you. Now the next person is Sonam.
Sonam ji, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Sonam, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Sonam, again, you know, like your topic is also quite relevant, important, interesting. There, you know, that you are trying to connect that with the sustainable development goal and then the sanitation, right? Water and
Yes,
sanitation.
right.
So when that is SDG 6, right? Water and sanitation is SDG 6. So when you're looking at SDG 6, you have to, that is not come out Sonam clearly, because SDG 6 has, you know, like at least 10, 11 sub indicators.
Yeah.
So that indicators, for example, waterborne disease is one of the indicator of, you know, like water and sanitation. Vector diseases that is coming up because of the contaminated water, that is quality of the water is not good, and then waterborne diseases are there, and health indicators have been affected because of the quality of the water and then the lack of the sanitation facilities. That is an SDG 6, one of the important indicator. And then then the other one could be, you know, the water and then sanitation, then the health implications, you know, because again the water is not there, and then the mobility is not there, and then employment of so a lot of things that has been connected, you know, with the SDG, you know. But which of this indicator that you will be using, because it is not clear. You're saying about, you know, we don't know the bigger picture, how it is structurally violating us. Yeah. So you are coming out with a structural violence. And the moment you're bringing out structural violence, you're bringing the state into the picture, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
Yeah, there is a systemic violence and a structural violence. Systemic violence means you are bringing the state, and structural violence means the structures in which it is there, it is being violated. So when you're bringing about the governance, because this water and sanitation is an important, again, a governance perspective, how important is, especially in the places, socioeconomically backward spaces, the water and sanitation, that issue is there, how it is connected to SDG, something that you need to see. Access of water, availability of water, affordability of water, and how then that has been used into these spaces, you know. So that need to be having these questions. So that questions, you know, like is not so clear. So though the abstract seems to be interesting, the abstract is not pointing very specifically into the questions that we need to probe in your analysis. So you are
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
that you will be using a group activity, and you are saying you will be using a forum theater, right? See, that is a very interesting methodology, but to have the people to come out with a forum theater for the people to use and discuss this, then these people should be informed about it. No, if the people are not informed about a sustainable development goal and the sustainable development goal 6 and what are there, because that is what you're saying about your your thematic area, SDG and water and sanitation. But then SDG connecting that with this and then using a theater form to discuss about it, and through the performances, the people needs to understand what is sustainable development goal. Most of the people are not aware. So you can bring even that lack of awareness of the people about SDG, because right now, Sonam, I am doing a study in Raigad district in Shadashi village, in Shadashi Panchayat, where I am trying to understand 4 SDGs, that is there SDG, that is health, that is SDG 4 and 5, that is SDG and gender, and 6 SDG and water and sanitation, and 13 that is climate, are the questions that I'm trying to understand. And they are out of in that village, in that panchayat, out of the 7 panchayats, 3 are dominated by the Katkari tribes. So it is one of the extremely socio-economically backward space. So most of the people, when we had this primary data collection one day, and then we are trying to understand the vulnerability groups of that, the people are not heard about the sustainable development goal. So I suggest you go there, discuss it, and use a participatory methodology to understand the vulnerabilities of these people because of this lack of water and sanitation spaces there. And then making the people understand this and do the theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Sonam, what you can do is that, okay, my number is there, no, with you.
I don't think, ma'am.
That WhatsApp group, you are a member, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah,
So you can call me in one of these days and we can discuss it further. It needs little more, understanding, and we can have a discussion on it.
Sure, ma'am. I will contact you.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah.
Next is Udbhav Malhotra, AA for Urban Planning and Decision Making. Udbhav, are you there?
Udbhav Malhotra ji? No, ma'am, he's not here.
Okay. Next is Khushbu Singh, Struggles of Resettlement and Rehabilitation of Displaced Families Life Story.
Ma'am, Khushbu Singh is all.
Yes, Khushbu ji is also not there, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next is Adarsh Tiwari and Adarsh Tiwari.
Adarsh Tiwari ji is also not there, ma'am.
Okay. Next is Meenu Mohan, Feminization of Responsibility. Priyanka.
Yes, ma'am.
So about these 3 people, again, we need to have another discussion of what? Have they given any reasons for not coming?
No, ma'am. No reason so far. Perhaps what we can do is that we can take them one by one in the next sessions if we get some 10 to 15 minutes spare there.
Yeah. That is only depending upon the time availability, because today we have already given them the time, no?
Yes,
so
yes,
I don't know whether how much we'll be able to, like this case,
Yes, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am.
Yeah. So the next person is Meenu Mohan. Is Meenu here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. She's here.
Yeah. So you are trying to look at the feminization of the responsibility in Kudumbasri, right? Gender dynamics of empowerment, household negotiations, and microcredit dependency. So Meenu, here your title of the research speaks about so many keywords. First one is feminization of responsibility. That is a keyword, right?
Yes.
So the moment you are bringing in the feminization of responsibility, you are bringing the theoretical norm of social reproduction, because how the responsibilities is actually being feminized. So then then you are bringing about the empowerment, household negotiations, and microcredit dependency. So you are trying to bring in 4 keywords and trying to understand that, feminization of gender dynamics of empowerment, household negotiations, and microcredit dependency to understand the feminization of responsibility. and then the whole importance of Kudumbasri. So you are trying to understand this in the meta-narrative of Kudumbasri. What is Kudumbasri? Kudumbasri is a state poverty eradication mission of the government of Kerala. Right. So what it is doing to the poverty eradication mission, it is doing the poverty eradication mission through the three-stepped address. What is it? Social empowerment, economic empowerment, and agenda empowerment. That is the three leaves of the Kudumbasri that, that logo speaks about. One is a social empowerment, one is an economic empowerment, and one is a gender empowerment. The three leaves is that. So when you're looking at, microcredit, it is because here, when you're trying to bring it, you are bringing all the three leaves together, because microcredit is coming in the economic space. And then the gendered thing is coming in the gendered development. And then the other one, like when you're looking at household negotiations, is coming on the social, because you are trying to address the household issues, which is a very important thing. House is an important social unit in Kerala. So you're bringing all these three things together, and then you are trying to look at, a self-help group initiative. So that is where, like I felt you need to correct yourself. That the Kudumbasri is actually, it is quite different from the self-help groups that is being advocated by the World Bank. There is a difference between a self-help groups and the neighborhood groups that has been advocated by the Kudumbasri. The Kudumbasri model is an NHG model. It's actually, which is actually coming from an SHG, but it is quite different, how? Because in SHG, the units are coming together for an economic activity. In neighborhood, the groups are coming together with the proximities of the households that is nearby. So neighborhood, it is neighborhood groups, not the self-help groups, it is quite different academically and theoretically. So how the neighborhood groups coming together as a social mobilization and then entering into an economic domain and then bringing back into the gender dimensions through the collectivization and mobilization is something that the Kudumbasri is aiming in. And then how can you address the poverty issues and eradicate poverty? So that issue, and then, but still, it is, what you're saying is that, okay, still it is bringing in the feminization of responsibilities, how much that, the double burden, triple burden that the women are having, and then the burden is being given to the women, basically taking from the argument that is taken from Devika's and the Vinita's article, then and the book that they have written, trying to say that how is that the theoretical argument that you are bringing in?
Yes, ma'am. Essentially that, so is microcredit really empowering them, and how they perceive their empowerment?
So my question is that, okay, this is the article, this is the usual state, but then you also as a researcher need to critically question that if this perspective is bringing a feminization, which is always connected with a negative connotation, that is a feminization of responsibility. How come every year there is more demand for the people to be members of the Kudumbasri, with Kudumbasri becoming 50 lakh, 46.8 lakh members, now becoming one of the largest community-based organization in the world? Why, if they are being given the additional responsibilities and additional burden and then feminization, why? How come? Because suppose if I am getting an additional burden, then I'm not interested to be part of that burden, no? Why there is so much interest and enthusiasm among the people to be part? And how come this every year, the number of the neighborhood groups in the Kudumbasri network is increasing? No? So you also need to bring in these issues, whether is it bringing a new form of comrade? There is a comradeship that is happening between the women, to come out and to collect together, collectivization, because where the women are only being, there, because in my study, when I was doing a study in Kudumbasri in Kerala, where, like the people are saying that, okay, now I was, so many people told me that, okay, I got a space in my home. So I asked them usually, like that, see, the people think that, okay, now the Kudumbasri is making the people visible outside. But the women are saying they got a space in home. I am asking the question. They said that I am getting recognition within my home. My husband started recognizing me. My children started recognizing me. So I was asked why. I said now they can bring some money, for the maintenance of the houses, for the education of the children, for the health purposes, for bringing the food materials, so they have certain kind of purchasing potential. And moreover, when I was asking to the husband, they say that, okay, till yesterday, she was only my wife. But now I see her, like addressing gatherings, and she's going to the bank, and the bank manager calling her as madam, and then Panchayat president coming here and calling as a madam. So there is a different agency coming to her, and I started giving her a different spectrum. So the children are also asking. Initially, we always used to ask our father for any kind of things. Now we'll go to Amma, and Amma will give us whatever, she's also capable. So there is a newborn respect that she's getting and which she's enjoying. So she's saying that she's being seen in the home. So I got more space within the home. I'm becoming more visible. My agency is getting more accepted. So it is important to see this kind of, way in which women are able to exercise their agency. Women are able to exercise their decision making in the household processes. Women are able to exercise their spaces in the neighboring ones and also in the institutional spaces, especially with the panchayat, where they are members, and then they are in the Narega things. Kudumbasri members are partners of that. And then a lot of micro enterprises which the Kudumbasri is starting, and which these people could be able to be part of it. So the visibility, the recognition, that is important. That there is a different form of a gendered resistance is also coming up. So I feel that if you're interested, you can also see that. Okay. So I can send you some article on that.
Sure.
But what will be your methodology? You have not. You are saying that posters with infographics. What does it mean?
I was thinking of looking at secondary data and essentially trying to see if they were able to if they were able to negotiate their spaces within houses, and see if like how they receive these additional burdens. Because despite them having a bigger role, the question then becomes, how are men being like, how does the state what is the role of men in this, basically? Because they are doing the same roles of tradition. They're continuing the traditional roles of being breadwinners, but they are not taking up household responsibilities that are there. But when women have to do that, they also have to take care of domestic chores as well as earn. So is this placing an additional burden on them? That was the kind of perspective that I was going for.
So that is exactly, like I was thinking that you're putting the women in a victim space, initially there's a power, you're saying that, okay, now the women are in a victim space. Initially, they have to look at the domestic cost, and now they have to also look at the kind of breadwinning spaces. So they're doing the double, triple burden. And then the women becomes a victim, but then is only looking the power from above, and then the positioning women to the victim spaces. But there is also an interesting resistance, all powers are with resistances. So women are using their agency with resistances. So if you can bring this, I strongly suggest that, otherwise it will be one-dimensional perspective. We'll be only looking at the women as victims, where there is a power hierarchy that is happening, and then the women are forced to do multiple roles as then the domestic or caretakers of the household, and also the breadwinners of the households, right? But, like along with this, women are also exercising their agency and then using their resistances. Where, like let's see, recently, there is one more thing the women are saying, okay, in a place saying that, okay, they are going to, they're using these spaces. They says that one woman says that Kudumbasri meeting are the only spaces where I'm getting space for myself. That the meetings, so where they're coming together, a bonding is happening between the people. And then if something is happening, if there is a domestic abuse is happening, all the women are coming together and questioning that. So there is also interesting mobilization is happening at the local level, at the micro level, and then they're coming out with an agency. And some of the group of the women are saying that, okay, now we are every year we have small savings, and we will all the 18 members of this neighborhood will go for a tour, for 5-6 days. So we will go for so last year we have gone by a ship, we have gone to Andaman, we have got it through our person, and this year we are flying, and we are the first persons in our groups to fly. So there are very interesting things where they are also using the agency. Not like, the kind of the power holders, victim position alone. They are also using their agency and the resistances. So bring that, so that your visualization things will be actually a combination of a power and resistance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll send you some articles.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Minu. Next one is Ashish Kelkar.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Ashish.
Yes.
So you are trying to look at, a neoliberal housing policies in India, right?
Yes.
So you are basically trying to look at, for a EWS housing, right?
Not really the EWS
The
housing.
studies expressed in the form of a photo essay that helps to
Yes.
understand the transitional journey of a neoliberal policies for EWS housing, where the government was seen more as a facilitator rather than as a provider.
Yes. Yes.
So you're basically trying to look at, how the neoliberal policies are
But
there.
however, the reading that I have done so far, what it talks about more is that it doesn't talk about the needs of the EWS housing. It talks about the demand. So that is a new reading that I have found. So maybe I'll have to correct that abstract as well and not focus on EWS housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, 1 second. Yeah. So when you're looking at the housing policies, housing, especially when you're looking in the present spaces, how it is important to see the, I'm trying to take my paper. Yeah, the neoliberal housing policies, that is basically you are trying to see that what is, like the context of the housing policies, which is actually, especially when you're trying to look at in a neoliberal context. Neoliberal context is the context where the state withdraws from that, state that governs,
yes,
the leaf becomes a neoliberal state. And housing is something of basic amenities that we think for the people. And when the house is withdrawing itself from that spaces, what is happening to the extremely weaker sections of the society, and what will be the kind of predicament, and then how the state and the policies will be addressing the issues, But that is something that is very, very important. But here also, Ashish, I'm not able to understand, when you're looking at that, are you trying to look at it, because the moment you're bringing in the neoliberal, you're bringing in a economic perspective. So, but economic perspective also, you can have a multiple perspective. For example, when, when Harvey speaks about, for example, when Harvey speaks about, disposition by accumulation, that is, he's taking from the Lefebvre things about right to the city. Everyone has a right to the city, So how the people have a right to city, and that right has been denied because of the capitalistic accumulation. And Harvey says that, okay, now, due to this capitalist accumulation, how the people belonging to the bottom rung of the society are being dispossessed of their rights. So this is exactly that what you're trying to see, that, capitalist accumulation, which basically seen profit maximization as their motto, where market is the central allocator of the resources, how the people belonging to the socio-economically backward ranks are being dispossessed of their rights, of their life and livelihood, and here of their housing, the place where they can live,
Yes.
So
Yes.
you have to look at that, basically from, when the constitutional right to live, the Supreme Court says, like it is right to life. It's not only the right to life, but the right to live with dignity.
Yes.
So a housing is the one, like a place to live is a place where a person can say that to demand dignity, right? So how the people, that is the EWS, and then how the neoliberal state, and how the change in the housing policies and the transition of the housing policies, and how the nexus between the contractors and then the capital, and then the space, especially the urban space, how it is happening. So the contractors, municipal councillors, and then the contractors, corporators, and then the citizens, how it is happening. And then how the space is coming as a very, very highly scarce resources in the neoliberal economy, and how then that is being dispossessing the people. And you can look at the housing policy. So please, Ashish, I strongly suggest you to go for a secondary data analysis where you can bring in a shift in the policy, policies, housing policies, and how it is affecting the people belonging to the lower rungs, and there you can position your paper.
Okay.
So go for a historical analysis, and then historical
Yes.
analysis, when you're going for a historical analysis from the welfare economy to the neoliberal economy, how the housing policies has been shifted, and how then that housing policies has been affected to the EWS. Where, so that welfare economy to the neoliberal economy and the positioning of the housing policy in that so many articles have come out with very detailed description. I can send you the articles, and I think that is also, there is no need, because that is there in the secondary reading that has been given to you
Yes.
by Bhide.
Yes.
Because the next
Yes.
class also in 7th, please do come, because Professor Bhide, one of the very good expert in the housing sector in India, is will be delivering her speech on housing, where you can really bring this question. You just think about your research question, and she is one of the best experts in India on housing.
Okay.
Urban housing. So please keep your questions ready to ask her, and especially to this housing things, and she will give you very interesting comments and interesting suggestions.
Okay.
And interesting readings. But the readings is already I've given, but she will be one of the very good resource person for you. Please take use of the time in the next lecture.
Okay.
Okay. And what is the methodology that you will be using?
So basically, I don't know what ethnography actually means. I've read little bit about it, but I think what I'm going to use is that ethnographic content analysis method going to use, where I'm going to use primary data collection from Dharavi slum. And basically, I'll be collecting data from the elderly people who have gone through so many transformation of policies, and how they have got benefited, and where they were now, when they entered the city, and where they are now, and what are they doing. So it's kind of interesting.
Ashish, you can really bring gentrification and housing.
Yes. Gentrification and displacement.
So that will be a very interesting things, because especially in today's Dharavi, now that has been taken by the Adani, how the gentrification is happening now,
Yes.
So you can really
because
ask.
There are other insights also through my practice that I have gone through. So what I have is that there were housing implementation was done in 1995 policy. And at that time, people sold their houses which were given to them, and rather gave them on the rent, and they again started living in the slums. And second problem with the housing was that their houses were on the upper floors, and their professions were on the lower floors. So that was also disconnected. So basically, they were not looking at the process, and they were looking at the end product. So that is the observation that I have made.
Yeah. Okay, please. That is good. And so you keep your questions ready for the next class to Professor Bhide, and then, you can get, but make the methodology and then, very clear. And since you are saying about it, because your paper, the abstract is not speaking about the methodology. So next, like in the same document, keep writing. So I can give you the comments to you, all of you, as, as a comments box, that what could be the additional things that is needed, because you also need to, I will ask Priyanka to add it to the abstract, adding the methodology part of it, because the methodology is not clear. Okay. And then the area. Okay. So all of you need to write about the research area and the methodology now. That is the second things that all of you have to do. What is the research area? The moment you are coming out the research area, then you can, and then methodology, and then the objectives very clearly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the last one, last paper is Jui.
Hello, hi, ma'am.
Hi, Jui. So Louis, Jui, I feel that you have actually your abstract is coming out now more concrete, more specific, where
Okay.
you are coming out with the neighborhood plans
Yeah.
between Maharashtra and Kerala, which is coming out very interesting.
Okay.
And then would compare the framework from that, what you are getting from that Kerala and Maharashtra things, you are trying to understand and compare that with the UK.
Yes.
Which is good,
Yeah.
So then, but here in again, Kerala and Maharashtra are quite, meta narrative. So in
Yeah,
Kerala,
meta.
which
Okay.
place,
Fine, fine, fine.
which state, so Kerala, which district, and district, which space, and then the neighborhood plan in which space is similarly in Maharashtra. So
Yeah.
next time you need to come out because
Specific. Yeah.
Kerala,
Okay.
Kerala, because like all districts are quite different in the
Yeah.
socio-cultural context. So it's with Maharashtra,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
entirely different. When
Yeah. Yeah.
Konkan
Yeah.
region is different from Vidarbha to other regions, so you
Yeah.
need to come out with that.
Yeah.
And just do only two, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
so the next time you have to, because right now you are coming out, with interesting things of a common man in Mumbai and
Yeah.
so a
That's
common man in Leeds. So that is interesting, that the way in which you are trying to bring in the methodological perspective, but you need to come out with the theoretical frameworks. You're saying
theoretical.
about
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
neighborhood plan is something that the neighborhood plan, because plan speaks from plan is a plan, right? It's a small plan. Have all the plans that is coming up. So, but still, when you're looking at the neighborhood plan, which is the one, the neighborhood
So
plan can be for the infrastructure. It could be
yeah.
for it could be for anything. It could be for
So
the gender development. Yeah,
yeah, so I was thinking of only looking at social infrastructure.
very good, very good, very good.
Social
Yeah,
infrastructure is what I was thinking of.
the social
Uh,
infrastructure is an excellent topic. Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
other than that, I have begun to, find out case studies with respect to that. I've not exactly found out the case studies completely yet, but there are many neighborhood development plans happening in the UK, and similarly, last lecture also we had of
Malini, right?
yeah, yeah,
Malini
yeah,
was
which
saying
was,
about, yeah,
a very good, like I
yeah.
felt that itself was a good case study
Yeah,
of,
Chetellur, like
yeah,
she was saying about, that is a very good thing. Yeah.
yeah,
You
so
can just speak to her and take that, and
yeah,
from that take the
yeah,
social infrastructure, and then
yeah,
develop that. Then so Kerala you have, then you take one from Maharashtra, but then
yeah,
that means you are basically looking at the secondary data, right?
secondary data, yes,
Fine,
yes.
fine, June, fine.
And yeah, so there was one question that came up in my mind at the end of even last lecture, and while I was doing some reading, is finally at the end of the research I would like to shed some light on the fact as to how much how what is the level of how much actual participation happens in participatory planning, and what is the role of the expert in such a process. So this may be different in India as compared to UK. So should that be like ma'am, I'm not completely clear, can this become part of the theoretical framework?
No, a theoretical framework means what, Joey? Theoretical framework means, like that could be a part of your conceptual framework. It is a different
Okay,
from a
okay, okay.
theoretical framework,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Theoretical framework means what? That there are multiple theories which speaks about. See, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah,
you are
okay.
speaking about a neighborhood plan.
Yeah,
And so many theories and theoretical frameworks are coming up from that. And from
okay,
the theories, you are getting certain concepts. And you're trying
okay.
to bring that concepts together to make a conceptual mapping which speaks about this particular research that you're speaking about, right? So you can have the role of expert in facilitating the neighborhood planning could be a concept that you can use it
Okay, fine,
and
fine.
say that, okay, then that could be
Okay.
a concept. That is, you are the author. So
Yeah,
any
okay.
concepts you can bring in from any places, and then it is the important is that as a researcher, how you're going to link to the other
Yeah.
concepts so that the research seems as an organic whole.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, now I get it. Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
So thank
Okay.
you all. I think I have answered to everyone one to one.
Ma'am,
And
we
I
have,
hope
sorry to interrupt, ma'am. Ma'am, from the previous three people who had not joined, Udbhav ji has joined. So can we take his also, the last one?
oh,
One last one, Udbhav Malhotra. Yeah, he got disconnected.
okay, let me take his.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
What is the topic, Udbhav, yours? Because I was just going chronologically, so I don't know. What is your topic?
Yes, ma'am. So like I have chosen like the use of
What is the title of the title? What is your title?
ma'am, it's artificial intelligence for urban planning and decision making.
What is it?
Artificial intelligence for urban planning and decision making.
AI. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Again, you are trying to connect, SDG 2030, right? How
Yes,
you are using the new age technologies,
yes,
in
like yes.
in. So when you're looking at the SDG 2030, which SDG that you are trying to look at? SDG 11?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh? So SDG 11, which sub-indicator that you are saying trying to look at?
Pardon, ma'am?
Which sub-indicator? Like when you're looking at a goal, SDG goal, there are many indicators to that and many sub-indicators to that, no? SDG
Yes,
11 is the one which speaks about livable cities, right?
yes,
So
yes,
there we are looking at the urban spaces.
yes,
You are looking at that. And then what is the role to make a city livable? What is the role of new age technologies in that is we are trying to see that, like
yes,
that there multiple indicators are there, right? So
yes,
when you're looking at the technologies, when you're trying to make the infrastructure, trying to make the design, trying to make the mobility, trying to make the energy consumption. So multiple ways you can use these technologies, right? New age technology. So which spaces are you trying to look the technologies for housing? Like one of your fellow colleague is trying to look at, how the technologies is interesting to look at for making green building, so that energy.
yes, ma'am. So like, ma'am, my basic focus will be around transportation and
You are looking
like
at the transportation, right?
yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
transportation in which manner? Which transportation? Because transportation could be, in multiple spaces. Now the transportation could be on the rails, on the buses, on the four-wheelers. So what transportation or even NMT, non-motorized transport?
Yes, ma'am. So like basically public transportation, be it like bus service or even
Public
for
transport?
yes, ma'am. So like in public transport, I've chosen bus service, and then for four
Public
wheelers,
transport, which one? Best bus.
bus service, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And ma'am, for four wheelers, typically like the use of traffic lights, how they can be utilized.
Traffic lights, how that is utilized?
Yes, yes, ma'am. For the utilization of transportation and traffic, better utilization.
You're saying about, smart feeder buses system
Yes,
or
yes, ma'am.
smart traffic light systems,
Yes, yes, yes,
Can you
yes, ma'am.
explain something more on that? Because I'm not an IT person and I'm not able to
Okay.
understand that. Yeah.
So, ma'am, like vis-a-vis smart traffic lights, what I'm like envisioning to talk about is that
You are a history honors person, right?
yes, ma'am.
Mm.
Yeah. So I was saying, ma'am, so with the concept of smart traffic lights, how that each and every traffic light in a specific area or a specific sector could be connected to each other via Internet of Things or IoT. and how they could actually connect with each other, and there will be different cameras which will assess which kind of traffic or the amount of traffic coming from special or from one way, and how it can be utilized to stop the traffic from other way. So in that manner, the kind of like the traffic problem, especially which Delhi has, it can be utilized, or how it can be solved.
Is the
And then,
data there, Uda?
pardon,
See,
ma'am?
because when you're doing it, no,
Yes, ma'am.
Udbhav, the
Yes, ma'am.
data should be like that, no? Is the disaggregate data like that in each of the traffic spaces, how that the traffic light is saying and how it is able to have this traffic congestions and all? Such kind of data second, because you need to have a secondary data, and is the data there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking into different countries, not exactly vis-a-vis India, but maybe in different countries, ma'am.
You are doing a secondary data of, like a traffic light to different countries and trying to say that.
Yes, ma'am. Like how it can be utilized in India, vis-a-vis the.
Because is it being utilized in India, that data? That is exactly I'm asking. If you are saying that this technology is being utilized in India, to understand that technology, you need to have the data set, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the data set there in India?
No, ma'am, not as of right now. I don't think.
So then what can you do with that,
No, ma'am,
What
but
research it could be?
ma'am, how could be like implementation of how it can be implemented uh, in like metro cities, especially like Delhi?
But see, to implementation, right?
Yes,
But
ma'am.
when you're saying about implementation, then that implementation, because when you see certain things, to understand that things in practice, you need to see that how that has been practiced. To understand that things to be in practice, you also need to see that data, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
without, like in foreign countries, that data will be there. When you need to compare that with Indian situation, I don't see a place, like whether you have this enough data that is available, especially you are saying that, okay, you are saying artificial intelligence, AI,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
which needs to be the codified data codes, right?
Yes.
Do you have the data codes or the micro data analytics and the data codes for that? And are you familiar to understand the AI data codes to interpret it? Are you familiar with the algorithms?
No, ma'am, but like I can get access to the stakeholders who can obviously through primary data collection. I can use their.
I have I have my reservations, I am
Okay.
not sure. Because
Okay. Okay.
one, like I'm not sure. Second thing is that I am also, if you are comfortable, fine, because your background says that you are a Bachelor of History honors,
Uh,
so how much that your
yes, ma'am, but I have
expertise
like
in, like AI, because it's a very technical thing.
yeah,
And,
definitely, ma'am,
how
but I
much,
have
the
access to.
technical knowledge, competence you have, And second one is that whether do we have the data of that sort to go for analysis?
Yes, ma'am, but vis-a-vis that, I have access to primary, stakeholders who can help me with that, and I can certainly look up into that, ma'am.
And I
Like,
don't understand what is the qualitative research in that.
okay,
You just think about your topic, and
okay, okay,
and your abstract is also very, very sketchy, not saying anything about any empirical studies, any theoretical framework, any conceptual things.
okay, ma'am. I'll refine it and I will get back to you.
Yeah, you just think about it and, try to have something of also a primary data collections, like I'm not fully understanding it, and it seems to be, like little over the board to you also.
Okay, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Udbhavji. So as we have come to the end of intermediate day of Urban Policy and Local Governance Youth Fellowship, an online national autumn and
Dhruv,
winter.
yeah,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
hold you there a little.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, would you like to give some final remarks for today?
Yeah. See, I'm quite happy with the, most of, not most, like almost all the the 13 papers that I've received, except for the Udbhav thing, which I've said, that he need to work on that. Otherwise, all ours seems to be very workable right now. And then the participants have really put in efforts to go through this and then write the abstract. And next step that, that we need to is connect that with the review of literatures. Priyanka, what I will do is that I will be sending you the articles, at least 3-4 articles for each of this paper, which they could use. And then, and again, the articles that is we are already given them.
Sure,
So
ma'am.
now the next stage, they have to come out with the adding to the same paper. They have to come out with a review, what should be the review of literature through which they have to come out, I can set a template also, what could be the theoretical framework, how they are going to bring the theories, and then coming out very specifically about the area of research, because, where they are going to do the research study. And so the next month, like if you can come out with this, at least the next, I don't know the kind of framework that you have, you will be having a framework, but in the next phase, if we can have this, and then we can have our objectives and then methodologies coming clear, because one of the classes I will be very specifically, because most of the people could use a participatory case study as a method, and then can use, different data collection tools, with that. So I can take one day on a participatory case study that will be useful for all the participants. And then we can come out with the ways of writing it. Yeah.
Ma'am, November 28th is when we have your session, and we have a discussion session scheduled for the same day. Would you like the participants to send like the revised version of abstracts and their detailed study area and the methodologies
That will
before
be
then?
good. That will be good. So that will give them enough time, That is excellent. Yeah. So I can give the template also. And then some of, like 3-4 articles, which is very much relevant and connected to their study area, because I've read it and I've given it, and I'll send you that. And I'll give a template, and November 28th could be very interesting. Yeah.
And for the couple of people who are left, I think between the sessions, if we'll get some time, then 5-10 minutes, I think we can do, we can have some initial
Sure,
discussion.
Priyanka. That we can do.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm really sorry for that. But now moving on to formal vote of thanks, as we have come to the end of the intermediate day of Urban Policy and Local Governance Youth Fellowship, an online national autumn and winter school program, a 4-month online immersive introductory leadership certification fellowship program. I, Dhruv Tapadia, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI New Delhi. We are grateful to our expert for the intermediate day session, Professor Manjula Bharathy ji, for taking out their valuable time and allowing us to learn from this online certification program. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We look forward to welcoming you on November 7th, Thursday, on 6 p.m. for day 5 of this certification course for the expert lecture of Professor Amita Bhide ji, followed by fellows interaction and discussion session. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube and listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications online. We hope you continue to join in future to our IMPRI #Web Policy Learning and #Web Policy Talk. Wishing you all a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Before we leave, Vipin Paliwal ji, I can see is here. Vipin ji, we have not received your abstract yet. I just want to confirm that you have not submitted it to us, or you can submit it as soon as possible. And regarding the next session on November 7th, it's by Professor K.N. Harilal and Professor Tara Nair ji. And Professor Amita Bhide's lecture has been rescheduled for November 14th. November 14th will be Professor Amita Bhide and Dr. Praveen Kumarji. So that's all the rescheduling that we had.
So you have been informed to Harilal, na Priyanka?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.